Once again, we have several members joining us today. So if anyone at any point feels that you need to have a question, you need to ask any questions, please feel free to send it in the chat box, and we shall answer those questions one after the other. We like the session to be a more of an interactive session than just a monotonous session. So please feel free to raise your questions, ask any number of questions that you like. Also, I request all the attendees who are not speaking to go on mute, so it is easier for the presenter to clearly present to us and we can hear all their presentation. Thank you very much, and looking forward to a great session. Over to you, Gray.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much, and welcome all of you. Original President Santosh, Malaysian head Rajiv Nair, and the rest of the WMC members, and also all the guests who have come in. A warm welcome. And just before I start, let me just request all of you to keep your microphone on mute. What I'll do is we'll try and make it as interactive as possible. So you can put in your, in case you want to ask any question in between, you can put it into the chat box. We will also have a Q&A session towards the end. So whatever you want to take down, you can write it down, and then towards the end, you can pose all the questions. And we'll try and keep it as short and simple as possible, but knowing the topic, it still needs time. So it may take about 30 to 40 minutes from my side and about 20 minutes or so for Q&A. And it may go on a little bit longer if the questions are coming forward and then we have more to answer. But I have covered quite a bit of areas, so I suppose it will be quite comprehensive, though it's not specific. So individuals will need specific answers, so that has to be addressed on a personal basis according to personal needs and ambitions. So we'll look at that on a later part. So it's going to be a very general overview of education abroad and the differences and the opportunities that's available. So we'll try and get on with it. Let me try and share my slide with you. Can you see my slide?
Yes, please. Yeah, we can see.
Okay, so as you can see my name, and I work for a company called Innovation and Creativity Skills Training Center in Berhad. I have been in the education line for the last 25 over years, and from 2003, I have been in student placements and career counseling. So I have been in a position to deal with students and parents and universities and colleges abroad. So we have been quite involved in this education. Now, this is the outline that I'm looking at. We are going to look at what can we study, why should we study abroad, what are the student lives going to be. We'll also look at some cost comparisons, scholarships, availabilities, what are the chances, how could you go for it, some admissions and visa guidelines, post-study work possibilities, and Q&A. So that's how we are going to run our sessions today. As I said, feel free to put in your questions if you have any, or we could leave it towards the end. Now, one of the questions that all of us have as parents and as students is, what can you study? I would like you to be a bit interactive, so you can actually put in your chats if you have any answers. Now, looking at the current trend, now there's a lot of questions as to what should I study or what can I study? There's also this social media jokes that go around. Why do I need to go to college? Bill Gates and many others were school dropouts. I mean, college dropouts. So why do I study? Now, is that true? I mean, yes, Bill Gates was a college dropout, doesn't mean he was not educated. He had a passion, so he took it to that, and that's why he was able to do something uh, good. Now, a lot of these people, actually, if you look at Google or Microsoft or any other big companies, you can see the people who are employed. They are not just college dropouts. A lot of the top students work in all these big organizations. So yes, you see that on social media that, it's no point, what's taught in the college is not useful at the workplace and all that. To a certain extent, maybe it's applicable to certain people, but not to everybody. So yes, education is still very important. Now, now this is what we look at it. Some students, they know what they want. We always say, if you can follow your passion, now that's the best uh, career pathway to choose. Now, the problem is a lot of us don't really know what's the career pathway or what's my passion. A lot of youngsters within the age of 16, 17, 18, they are still grappling. I mean, even we, when we were working, we still had career changes. So we keep moving on. So how do you expect a teenager or a young person to know what's the future like? So that's something that uh, a lot of students face this, but I think that's not a problem. I find that if they're not sure, it's also okay, because at that age they are supposed to actually experiment, try different things, and eventually they will choose something, right? And of course, many of them will say, I'll follow my parents. And a lot of parents want the children to follow what they want the children to be. So that's quite common. And peer pressure. A lot of them will also follow what their friends are doing because of the friendship, right? So they don't give much thought about what I want to study or what I want to be, but I just want to be with my friends. So I'll follow wherever they go. It doesn't matter what course I do. I just want to be in the same college and in the same company of my friends. So that's quite common, right? What do you think? Please put your hands up or just say hi or just say yes or something in your chat.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're
And I
right. Yeah.
see what you are also, whether you're following me or whether we are in tune with what we are saying. All right. Now there's also other some countries, they will have entrance exams. Some they will have scholarships. Like, say for example, if students from Malaysia, they will want to go, they may look at, okay, Japanese scholarships, or Singapore, there's a scholarship or something, right? So they may go for it. Or if it is like India, some of them may want to go for the NEET exams or the GE exams, or different exams, because then the exams will determine what the student studies. So it's a reverse thing. It's like, I will follow the exam, and if the exam gives me, say, engineering, then I'll go for engineering. If it gives me agriculture, then I'll go for agriculture. If it gives me dentistry, I'll go for dentistry. So that sort of things that happens in India quite often because of the entrance exams, right? And of course, some of them say, I have no idea, right? uh, well, this is where we can help. Parents can help. uh, Friends, uncles, aunties, all of them can help. Actually, nowadays, a lot of them know. I mean, they get very much exposed compared to our time. I mean, in my younger days, there was no one actually to, tell us this is the way to go. Uh, or even for certain entrance exams, there were no one in school or college who used to tell us what to do. Even today, not many career guidance teachers are there in schools. So it's not the children's fault. It is basically the education system is as such. They're only interested in exams and pass marks, and not so much into uh, how to focus on what they should study later on. And of course, there will be some who says, I'm tired of studying, I want to work first. So they want to take a semester. I mean, they want to take a break from studies for a while or a semester, and then they want to come back. Now, one of the things that I tell a lot of the parents and students is how do I choose what I want? And the trend is most of the time students finish their, say, year 10 or O levels or SPM or A levels, and then they will go to the next step. All right. So they follow on stages, one after the other. After school, go to college, after college, go to university, that sort of thing. Now, what we normally tell students is you should look at what it's going to be in 5 years' time from now. Because in 5 years' time, this whole thing will change. The whole scenario will change because of the emerging trends and the industries. What we started studying by the time you graduate, maybe needed it, maybe something new came, right? Uh, can I request the guest to mute? Yeah, thanks. So this is what is happening because a lot of times we think this industry is good, I should go. I mean, if you look at it a few years back in Malaysia, nursing was very popular. So a lot of students gone into nursing, and then we have a huge glut of nurses and employment became a problem. Today, I think we have a problem with doctors because we have so many doctors who have gone in to different countries. In Malaysia, there's 30 over universities offering medical degrees. So suddenly you have got so many doctors coming out, and we don't have enough workforce looking for that. I mean, to fill up those positions. So that's also a problem. So we need to look at what are the emerging trends, how are the industries progressing, and how will I fit into those. This is what it's important to know. So, for example, anyone, can you just tell me what's the emerging trends now? What do you think the industries are looking for? Want to type in your chat box? Let's see some answers. Anyone? One sec. I'm just, let me just see the chat site. Sorry, 1 minute. Huh? Yeah, I'm just looking for the chat. Can't seem to find my chat now. Okay, never mind. Oh, yes, I got it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have robotics, we have medical tech, actuarial science. Yes, IR 4.0. Exactly, you all are right on top, right? Now, AI, that's what it is. I mean, a lot of things are going, a lot of professionals may lose job when AI takes over. Robotics, blockchain, logistics. Yes, right on. Now, this is what has happened. I mean, 5 years ago, we didn't think this is going to be that big. So a lot of students who went to graduate schools or went to undergraduate courses, they didn't really look at it, right? At that time, it was maybe different ones, right? Medicine, uh, a bit of programming, a lot of people would have gone for nursing, biotech, right? Now it's changing, right? So again, we have to look at the changing global markets. Now, one time Europe, US, UK were the leaders. In time to come, China is going to be a big player. India is going to be a big player. ASEAN may be a big player. Indonesia may be a big player. I mean, whoever thought, Indonesia is going to grow so big? So the changing economic trends has to also be looked at. Now, the other thing that we need to look at, what employers are looking at, what traits are the employers looking for? Now, those days we used to say the personal traits are very important, right? Your communication skills, your soft skills are very important. Now it is also your skills. What other skills can you bring in, right? Or your attitudes, what can you bring into your workplace, right? Sometimes language skills, all this have to come in as well. So what skills are needed for the future market? So that would determine what you choose or what you want to study as well, right? Now, as we all know, the professionals, the regular professional jobs we all know, and this is something that most of our parents used to want all the kids to do: doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants, teachers, etc., etc. But what do we have as emerging ones? Here they are, right? I think most of you have mentioned, but a lot of it was on the technical side, more into maths and physics and science, and that's what we call the STEM. Today, STEM is a big deal because it talks about science, technology, uh, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So a lot of it is STEM related. But on the other hand, there's a lot of attention on creative side, right? Fashion, performing arts, music, all this, even in medicine, art therapy has come into play. Now, big buildings, facility management is a huge thing, right? Psychology, oceanography. Now, all these are big players, right? Now, so it's very diverse from what we used to call it a professional career. Now there is a much diverse field. Agri-tech, forensic science, food nutrition, all these are big. Now, so it's a big, uh, I would say, a confusion as what to do. I mean, can you imagine a 17, 18-year-old having to decide what to do, which field to go? So, because the market is so wide and varied, so we need to guide them. Now, this is where we need to tell them it's not just the professional courses, there's a lot more. Now, this is where we need to see, do the child, do the student have certain interests in certain things, right? So this is in line with the future. We can actually guide them, right? So we have glasswares, we have geological, golf management, perfumery, we have jewelry making as a business, we have shoe making as a business, right? Bovine management. A lot of these are all part of the whole whole decision making process. Now let's go on to the decision making. Let's talk about it. Now, what do we look at after post-secondary? What sort of decisions do we make as parents or as children or students? One is, okay, we talk about going to the local institutions. Let's look at what are the advantages of going to a local institution. Could you just type in what are the advantages of going to a local institution or local university? I think the first one is, I think all of you will say is most likely is closer to home, right? Much cheaper, familiar environment, right? And of course, the parental guidance is very important, right? You don't want to get distractions, less distractions when you're back home, right? Well, what are the disadvantages? What do you think? Want to just type in what are the disadvantages? One of the things that I can think of is Okay, not much exposure, less independence. Uh, okay, lower standards. Well, depends. Lower standards again, depending on where it is and what sort of institutions are available. All right. The too theoretical. Yes, some places that could be too theoretical. Right. The other thing is, you see, you already have been studying in a place within your own comfort zone where your parents are, your home ground, and all that. And you have gone through a system of learning, and then you continue in the same place, you are not getting much of a difference. Right. So going to a different environment will give you that, right? You learn something what others are doing. So you can benchmark against the best industry players or best countries which have got certain industries which is very matured. So you get those advantages as well, right? So that's yeah. Okay, let's look at the overseas destinations. Now, we have the common ones, which is the native speaking, English speaking, US, UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, which has been around for a long time and still very much popular. Now, there are a lot of new frontiers that have come on because Europe was always running their programs mostly, undergraduate was mostly in their own language, and Europe being a very diverse and different language, they have been not very exposed for the global education. Whereas now, I think after the Bologna process in 1993 or 92, they have actually opened up, and you see more master's programs coming on, and they have started doing it in English as well. And also on the parents and the children's side, we also have started to look at the advantage of learning a European language. So many people started going to those countries to learn the language and then stay on and then contribute. And you see, countries like Netherlands, countries like Germany, Italy, they have a lot to offer. Paris, I mean, sorry, France, they have a lot to offer. So these are institutions who have also got very good academic quality, but then because it was in their own language, we were not able to take advantage of it. Then we have the other options like Russia, China, Singapore, Malaysia. Now, Singapore has always had a good quality in the Asian countries, but very limited. There are only three public universities. They have mainly NUS, NTU, and SMU. Russia has always been good, but Russia was always a bit of a closed country, so not many people used to go there, and then the language barriers and all that. But now, because of the cost factors and all that, Russia, China, and all that became popular. China is doing quite a bit of work because they are very skills-based programs. So a lot of programs and a lot of facilities. The campuses are very big, so a lot of people are going there as well. Are you all okay? Good, going, following with what I'm doing? Any questions? Feel free to ask. All right, now let's move on to why do we want to look at study abroad programs? Now, as we said, it will be a new experience, different from what you have done in school. It will be, there are a lot of decisions to be made once you are going to study abroad. Now, one of the first things, what do you think is more important when you go abroad? Money, yeah, money, right? You need a lot of finances. Two, you want to know whether my son or daughter can cope, right? She has never washed her own clothes. She has never cooked her own food. She's going to go and stay alone. Will she be able to iron her clothes, right? All these decisions are very, very, what you call close to parents. And knowing our modern parents, we are all very protective about our kids. So moving away can be quite difficult for the parents, but for the child too. Sometimes initially they are very excited to go away because of the independence they're going to get, but after a week or two they'll say, "Mom, I'm homesick, I want to come home." Right? These are challenges when you have study abroad, but as they move on they will get used to it, right? And it's perfectly normal to be nervous and have some of these concerns. And normally these are things that help them to become matured very fast. And personally, I feel the one who leaves home early is the one who is going to be more successful than the one who leaves late from the home. So uh, I would personally encourage children to, once they are ready to move on to a proper university, you should give them the encouragement so that they can start doing things on their own and be ready for the working world, because the challenges in the working world is very demanding these days. So they need to have that. And you can see a lot of Korean students coming to Malaysia to spend a semester or so just doing languages and all that. The reason is a lot of Korean companies are all over the world. They send them to different countries just to get exposure to that particular country, so that these graduates can then actually work in those Korean companies, and they are already exposed to the foreign environment. So this is exactly why study abroad can help a lot of young ones to familiarize, right, with different countries and different cultures and climates and things like that. And thousands of others are in the same position. That means lots of students. Now that's a big deal as well. You are not alone. I find that sometimes when you go to London, you see a lot of Indians are together, a lot of Chinese are together. Now they don't seem to be mixing much, but at the university level, you will see them a lot more mix between the students. So it's always good to be in a country where you want to be and spend a bit of time before you get on with your work experience and then head home or something like that. So those are some of the advantages of study abroad. Now, how do we choose what's a good destination? What are the things that you think uh, makes you decide which country is good for you? Give me some shout out. What do you think? Want to type something? Some of the reasons for choosing your country. Is it the jobs? Is it migration, university itself, finance, yeah, cost factors? Now, all these are very important decisions, right? So the first thing is, yep, social security, relative support, job scope. Correct, exactly. That's what post-study visas. Yes, that's exactly we are looking at recognition of the university qualification. Now, I also look at one of the things that I say is the style of the education. Now, traditional versus vocational. Now, a lot of us are in the traditional mode, right? We always say, oh, my son or daughter must get a degree first. It doesn't matter what degree, you must get a degree first, right? And then some of them say, oh, they must go to a university. I don't want diplomas and I don't want any other qualification. I only want degree, right? Now, this was the case when we were studying. There was degrees, and we only had other vocational courses, which is more for the dropouts, right? But today, it's traditional versus vocational. Now, a lot of good vocational institutions have come up that you may not get that, like, say, for example, film production. Now, if you go to a university, they may not necessarily have the high end equipment to actually train them for film production. Whereas if you go to a film school, it is not a university, but it's recognized by the industry. The student will actually be working like in a film production environment. They have long hours while they study. They are made to do work, get up early in the morning, go to a site, do some inspection, do the wrecking or setups and things like that. Very hands-on practical work. Same can happen in fashion design. The first week after the orientation, the second week, you already given materials to start pattern cutting, designing, and stitching, and all that. So you don't get a lot of these things in a traditional. Initially, the 1 or 2 years, you will be doing a lot of theories. You will learn about the history behind it and how it progressed and all that. But in a vocational school, it's very hands-on. So when it comes to employability, nowadays it's the skills, it's the vocational schools that sometimes it's very attractive. So you need to think about that. Now, the other thing you will need to look at is location. Now, which country? Some of you might be looking at migration possibilities. Some of you might be looking at the university name recognition itself, right? Now, once you decided the country, now, do I go to a big city or do I go to a smaller town where the numbers are smaller, or do I stay in London? Do I stay in New York? Do I stay in California? Right? All this, different countries, different cities. Now, again, we look at the pros and cons. Big cities, a lot of distractions. Smaller places, much easier lifestyle, less expenses, maybe more friendlier people. Uh, and say for example, if you go to London today, you see more Asians than uh, English. So you go to a little further, maybe a remote area, you see a lot more English people. Or you go to Scotland, you will see more Scottish people. So you actually can get a different environment. So again, it comes down to what's the intention, what do you want to, what your student wants, what your son or daughter wants from this whole study experience. Size, do you go for a larger university, a top university, or a specialized institution? Now again, a lot of us go into rankings. Different publications comes with different rankings. Now rankings are done according to their researches they do, as well as there are institutions which are specialized in certain things. So you need to look at what industries rank them as. So you need to see how or which is better for the student, right? So those are things that you may want to consider as well. Again, culture and facilities. Now, some parents like to send students to Malaysia because we still have a little bit of a mix of Asian as well as Western cultures. So you can have a bit of practice of both. So you're okay to do that. Now, sometimes I feel like Malaysia, we have like a transit destination. You can do a tuning program. You can do it a couple of years here and then move to a final destination where you want to. So you can blend it with wanting to have the culture and not thrown into a new environment altogether and totally different. So sometimes you can blend them and then slowly move them on. So that's something you can do. The other reason for looking at study destination is also to look at what past graduates have done. What are they doing now? So if you look at the university's website, you can see what these people are doing, where they're working, all that past graduates success stories will become a major criteria to decide. Tuitions, as we said, is one of the big finance issue that we look at what are the scholarships that you can get from the university, from the country, from the region. There are different opportunities. There's bursaries given there from the university itself. So these are also good considerations to look at. Living cost is the other one that we look for, right? So again, some universities will have free tuition, but then the living cost is there. Even in Europe, if you go to West Europe, it's certain cost. If you go to Eastern Europe, it will be a different cost, right? If you go to Russia, the tuition is cheaper, the living cost is cheaper. So again, the finances comes a big play into all this, right? How are you all doing? All good?
All good, all good. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
Do shout out if you have any questions, or you want me to pause and answer any questions. Feel free to do that. All right. Now the next thing is student life. Now when you choose a university or a country, you want to also look at what will be the student life like, right? Now one of the major thing that I will always feel is the student body. Student body is where do students come from? How many countries do they come from? What is the student mix like, right? You don't want to go into a class where, say for example, if I'm an Indian and I'm going to a class and it's all Indians. Now that defeats the whole purpose of going overseas. I rather study in India, right? So we want a good student body with diversity, with different cultures, because you must remember what you study at your undergraduate level or master's level, the friendship that you make at that time is going to last you forever. Don't you think so? We all have our classmates group now in our WhatsApp chats, right? From primary to secondary to university. So our classmates will always be with us till we die, right? So this is what is for your child as well, because the student body is their network. Wherever they go, eventually in their career, this friendship will always be with them. So it's very important to see what sort of students they're going to mix around. Now, once you're in the campus, there are lots of clubs and societies. So as prospective students, they should look at all this. Now, if you go to US, it will be a totally different environment. You won't have cricket. You will probably have baseball and NBA basketball and American football. So that's ice hockey and all that. So it's a very different game. Though of course there are smaller communities. You can see them playing cricket in US, but it's a very different lifestyle. And a lot of these public universities have got massively big facilities, especially the government universities, and their clubs and societies have a very interesting lifestyle. In fact, some of the baseball tournaments, they call it the NCAA in US. It's like a carnival. They start in the morning. They got lots of activities, booths, and fun fair, and all that. And then till the evening, when the game starts, that's a huge uh, party going on. So these are all part of their growing up. It's not about just academics. It's about the personality development among the young ones, and it's very important because that makes them much stronger and better. Of course, places like US, places like UK, Europe, they got a lot to explore. It's not only between semesters, it's also even weekends. They can actually move around. So you're going to a new town, a new city, you've got a lot of new things to learn, uh, and mannerisms, familiarity with new places, new names, new lifestyles. And then you move within towns and cities during the weekends and semester breaks. Like in Europe, you take a train, you can go all over Europe, right? Same in US, you can take a car and drive around the whole of US. So a lot of these possibilities are there, and you experience new things in different cities. One of the things that comes to my mind is, when a student goes from here to study aerospace engineering, now you go to the US, now you get a field trip to NASA. Now, how many countries can actually offer that kind of an experience, right? So if you're in Florida, you go to NASA and you see this whole spaceship and capsules, Apollo capsules and all that. Not many countries have. I mean, in India, we have ISRO, but hardly we can go in. I mean, the security systems are so close, you can't even go in, right? So a lot of good things that can happen in all these uh, developed countries or European countries or Western world that they can explore. A lot of volunteering jobs with societies. You can get into the community and do a lot of volunteer jobs, which will also enhance their personality as well as the what do you call career building, right? And another good thing is when you are abroad, you have to manage your finances and your workload. So suddenly from mom scolding the child in school to sit and study or watching from behind and seeing what he's doing, now he's all by himself in his own room trying to do his assessments. And all this while it has been year-end exams, and you just start studying during the study holidays and put in all the efforts just before the exam. But now, no, every week or every 2 weeks you've got assessment assignments and quizzes and all this adding up to your final marks. And your semesters are so short, maybe 16 weeks, and your semester is finished. So you have no time to actually wait for your exams, right? It's continuous assessment all the time. And you have to also manage your finances. You can't go one day and blow up all your money 1 week and then next week got no money because your dad and mom can't send you the money straight away, right? So there are restrictions as well. So they start doing budgeting on a daily basis. I normally tell students, you have to write down how much you spend every day so that they become uh, careful and they become conscious about their expenses. And that, and students being students, I'll tell you, they know how to save money if they want to, right? So they will become very cautious once they know, oh, this is what I'm setting and this is what I have, right? So that's very important as well. And they become very good uh, once they start doing that. Right. So let's move on to the next one. Let's look at some of the cost comparisons. I've actually done a couple of tables here, just giving some ideas. These are rough estimates, not necessarily the same. But as I said, this is just to give you an idea of what it is. So I've broken down into currencies according to the country. So we have UK, we have US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Singapore. Now these are probably the higher cost ones. Um, any questions? Are you all clear with that? Now we have tuition and we have living expenses. Now a lot of this is important because as parents, you need to prepare this for the visa purposes as well as the studies, right? So if you look at, say, for example, in UK, a regular university, you can see the tuition fee is about 10K to 38,000, right? 10,000 to 38,000. Now, this again varies depending on the university. So now if you're going to a top tier or Russell University, you'll end up paying a lot of money. But if you go to a mid-range university, you probably pay around 10, 12,000 in tuition fee. Now, they will also have bursaries, so that can then come down. Again, as you see at the bottom, we have the part-time studies, sorry, part-time work. So with the part-time work, they are allowed to work 20 hours. Now, one of the things that I tell students is, now you got to balance this. I mean, just because you're allowed to work part-time doesn't mean you forget your studies. So when we say 20 hours a week, it's actually half a day. It's 4 hours a day if they are working 5 days a week. But if they are working in the weekends, then they can just work 8 hours each or even work 1 hour and make the same amount of money. Now, I had a few experiences where I had some Chinese students who went from Malaysia to UK or Scotland. Now, these two boys I always use as an example because they were really good. they they used to make this popia. I'm sure you know what it is. It's more like a roll, and they learned how to do it. And when they went to Scotland during the weekends, they have the flea market. It's more like our pasar malam, our night market, street market. So they rent the the stall for about £9, and that means, and they sold the popia one for £3. So once they sell to three people or three popia is sold, they cover the cost of the stall. The rest of it is their earnings. So maybe they spend about 4 hours that evening, and if they make enough, roughly they need about £100 for their living expenses. So if they make about 20, 30 sale, they are good for the week. So they actually can cover without having to put in too many hours and still support their living expenses, right? And they feel good because once they start earning a little bit on a part time, because these are all grown up children, I mean, they are doing their undergraduate or postgraduate, they like to make some and not burden too much on the parents, right? So that's something that you can train them or you can talk to them, but make sure they do things which is legally uh, possible, because we don't want them to get into trouble with the visas. All right, so got to be careful where it's allowed and where it's not allowed, how many hours legally allowed. And some of them, like the creative ones, they can do things from home. Language tuitions, you can give it at home. Babysitting, you can do it at home. So right, so it's all safe and sound, a lot of jobs at the universities itself. Student helpers for the international department because of your language skills or because of your contacts, right? You can do all that. So these are things, there are opportunities for students. We also have European countries like Italy, the Netherlands, Russia, China, Germany, and Malaysia. Now, each of them have their own niche for studies. Now, if you go look at Italy or Paris or London, when it comes to creative side, uh, say for example, fashion, talk about designs, industrial designs, or you talk about what you call culture, right, or tourism. Now, these countries are very good. You look at Netherlands when it comes to renewable energy. I mean, they are very popular. When it comes to horticulture, they are very good. I mean, there are no inches left in Netherlands where they can do anything because they have utilized the land very well, right? So all these are examples uh, that you can see in Russia. Well, they were a superpower one time, so they are still good in anything to do with nuclear science, with engineering, with medicine. They are equally good as America, but only thing is they have not marketed like the Americans. So for a cheaper cost, that's an alternative, right? China is upcoming, so a lot of people go to China. I know of my former students who went to China. The parents send them to China just to learn the language because Chinese are opening up a lot of companies in Africa. So these are things that you need to see in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. When Chinese companies take over, you need to know the language, right? So going to China is also an option for many students because in future, when they are in many different countries, the language will help. Their culture will help. I mean, if you're familiar with their work ethics, now all that can help, right? Now, Germany is very interesting because a lot and lot students and parents are looking at Germany now simply because of the free tuition. Right? One is tuition. Another one is also when it comes to engineering, when it comes to technology, uh, there are a lot of companies in Germany. Now, if you, for example, now one of the things that a lot of Indian parents in India are reluctant to send their students for engineering, right? So why? Because they say after engineering they're not getting job. Uh, can I request you to mute your mic for a short while? We'll get into the question answer session soon, so then we can unmute at that time. Yeah, thank you. So lot of students go to Germany because even though there are a lot of engineers in Germany, there's still a lot of job possibilities because there are a lot of companies. So this is one thing that you need to look at. What are the possibilities for me to work in Germany? And once you have a bit of German language, you can, I mean, there are a lot of German companies around the world. So you can easily get jobs within their company back home or in your home country or whatnot, right? So all this plays crucial for the future, right? Now, I put Malaysia here simply because of the twinning arrangements. Of course, we have 3+0, which is you can do a foreign degree in Malaysia for a cheaper price. But I normally tell them to see Malaysia as a transit point simply because after graduation, staying back and getting jobs in Malaysia is not that easy. Uh, Somehow or rather, our government has not supported, though we talk about making it an education hub, the government has not supported it with workforce. So in that sense, it's a little unattractive if you complete it in Malaysia, but it will be attractive if you transfer them to a different destination where there are work possibilities, which we'll look at it in a while. Where are these possibilities of staying back and getting some work experience? Now, I have listed down a number of country scholarships, but every university has a number of scholarships. So you have to do some research. Now, a lot of times when I go for education fairs, and the first question I get is, do you offer scholarships? Now, you must always understand scholarships are given based on merit. It can be merit on academics or it can be merit on extracurricular activities. So some universities offer for sportsmen, some for being a good ambassador in your own schools and things like that. So scholarships on based on certain criterias, eligibility. Sometimes country specific scholarships are available. So there are plenty of them which you have to watch out for. And to get scholarships, you must be very determined and you must be very detail oriented. Just like your CVs. When we write our CVs, we normally have to be very detailed in what we have achieved. So similarly, you got to take a little bit of extra time in applying for your scholarships. And you have to look at your due dates. So a lot of the scholarships close much earlier than the intake. So you need to apply, even though you don't have the full results, you can still apply pending your the last results. But the due dates have to be followed, otherwise you are going to miss. Look at the amounts. Some could be full scholarships, some could be partial scholarships. So these are things that you need to look at and the documents that you need to submit. All these are the important things that you need to look at. Now I've put down some of the top government scholarships. Fulbright scholarship in US, British Chevening scholarships. Normally these are like at least a year, and these are mostly for postgraduate courses. And a few of them, like the Dutch, the Netherlands, they have the Holland scholarships. They have undergraduate as well. Then Australia, New Zealand, Australia has for all levels, undergraduate, for vocational, and so how for Japanese, Taiwan, they have undergraduate scholarships as well. All right, let's get on to the other main point that once you have decided on which country, which course you want to do, it comes the admissions. Now, most admissions nowadays it's direct or online or through authorized agencies. So you can choose what you want to do, and there are plenty of them in plenty of agents in the respective countries, or you can go online and apply to the universities directly. The international office will help you. Sometimes the international office gets bombarded with a lot of applications directly. So if you have an authorized agent in your country or nearby, now that's just as good as applying to them directly, because you get answers much faster through the agents. And also they will help you with the whole process from A to Z until you reach the university. So that's something is like a real estate agent or a relocation agent that you use when you go to a new country, right? So you can use that as well. And look at the entry requirements. Now, I find that sometimes a lot of students, not a lot of students, a certain ethnic students, they tend to falsify documents. Now, try not to do this at all, because it will not take you anywhere. You will waste a lot of money, because I had cases where students have given false documents. They went there and they got caught up, and then they lost all the money, whatever they spent. So entry requirements, if it is stated, it must be met. And some of them are like the language proficiency, apart from the normal qualifications, the grades, you have to look at language proficiency. You have test, say for example, if you want to do masters in US, you have GRE or GMAT test. Uh, you may have SAT test if you were going to undergraduate, depending on the universities or institutions. Um, like India, you have different tests for engineering and medicine and all the other professional courses as well, right? So sometimes you also have portfolios for certain courses, like creative arts. Most of it, they will ask for portfolios. So if you are an artistic person, they will ask you, what have you done in your school or your younger days? So you need to show portfolios of what you have done. All right. So it can be in CDs, it can be in artwork, it can be in any form. So that's important. And the other one is personal statement, where you need to mention your motivation for doing things. And the motivation letter is basically saying what are you as a person, what is your ambition, and why do you want to do this program. So very clear cut questions are being mentioned, so you just have to put that. Now two things they look at it: one is to see that you are a very motivated person, and by taking you in, the university is going to have a good student. And also your what do you call, your language skills. When you are writing the letter, they can see that your language skills are pretty good. You have the required caliber in writing assessments and theses and assessments as well. Then referral letters, you need to get your academic reference from at least two lecturers or headmasters or whatever from your school, who can actually tell good things about yourself as a person. And the other thing is, when you are doing for overseas admissions, you have to attest all your documents. That means it has to be done by a notary public, not commissioner of oath. Commissioner of oath only for that particular country. It's home office. If you're going international, you need to go to a notary public. Most law firms may have their notary certification, so it will mention their details as well when they certify. So all your school certificate from high school onwards, all your certificates has to be officially attested. And some places like US, Canada, they will ask for proof of finance, that you have enough funds, even when you're applying to the university. Most other places applying to the university, they don't ask for finance, but in US and Canada, they will ask for proof of finance. So you need to have additional bank statements for your university application, because in US, they provide the offer letter called I-20, where it is mentioned that, so to issue an I-20, it is actually linked to the immigration. So you need to show proof that you have enough funds to study for the first 1 year. And if any application fees, that has to be paid as well while you apply. So those are the things that you need to look at in terms of admissions. Let's move on to visa. I think I'm running a little very late with our presentation, but I'm going to finish
Yeah.
a few more slides.
I hope everyone doesn't mind that we are running a bit of time extra. So
No worries, no worries. I think the topic is quite relevant, and you are explaining in a proper. I think you can go ahead.
okay,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you everyone for the support. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I said, because there's quite a bit of things to cover. Right. So when it comes to visa, it's pretty much online, embassy related, and sometimes you can do through certain service centers, right? So you have the visa application, which has to be applied online. Of course, there will be a visa fees associated with it. And one of the first documents you need to get is an unconditional offer from the university before you apply for your visa. Now, the university may go in stages because of your results. You may get a condition offer letter first. Then once you get your final results, you submit, they will give you the unconditional offer. Now, once you get your unconditional offer, then only you can start your visa processing, right? So for visa processing, you must have an unconditional offer from the university or the institution that you're going to study. Because it will also mention how many years you're going to be studying there, right? And again, all your official documents, from the school transcripts to all the other supporting documents, finance and all that, it must be attested. Now, proof of finance. Proof of finance, you have to give tuition fees plus living cost covered for at least a year. Now, some universities in Australia, they may require for for the whole duration, but in most other countries, it is for the first year. So as long as you have enough funds for your first year, both tuition and living costs, as stated in your unconditional offer letter, that has to be shown. Now, US and Canada, you need to show proof for at least the last six months. UK, you need to show at least 1 month before. That means the statement should be at least 1 month before, for 30 days, 28 days before you apply for your visa, right? It should be the reason 28 days before you apply for your visa. So those things have to be there, proof of finance. Now, there are some countries like US and Canada, there's another requirement that they say is you have to show evidence that you will go back to your home country. Now, that's a very, very difficult thing to prove, and they will not tell you what exactly it's there. So generally, the whole uh, experience that we have is they want to know how strong are you in your home country. So they want proof or evidence that you have a strong base in your home country, because there are a lot of students, say for example, Iranian students in Middle East, say Dubai. Now the parents are all based in Dubai. They don't have a proper base in Iran. So when they apply, they may not have sufficient documents to show that have a strong home base, right? So this becomes a question mark whether this student is going to jump, right, or not going to go back to his home country. So this is something that we need to be careful when you apply to US or Canada. You need to show proof things like you have a home, a residence. It can be under parents' name, but you need to show proof that there is a home. If you are a government servant, that's a good proof. You have lots of money, that's good. Because a lot of these countries, they look at either you are a very smart boy or you have sufficient funds to spend, so they don't depend on grants in the country that you're going to go, right? So you need to show proof that you have a strong base in your home country and you're well off. So that's the sort of documents
44 लोग ने ज्वाइन किया, मैंने डाला है चैट में.
Right. Let's look at some of the post-study opportunities. Now, I'm going to just briefly show you some of the popular destinations and what sort of availability is there. US, they have something called the OPT, right? It is actually the optional practical training. Now, I put there 1 to 3 years. For STEM-related students, they have extended it now until 3 years. So you can do 1 year and then extend for another 24 months. So the science, technology, engineering, and math students, related students, can actually work for 3 years after graduation. All the others will get 1 year. Now, if you can do 1 year, it's good enough, because once the employer likes you, they can apply for your H1 visas. I mean, they can, H1 visas. So you can work there. Now, they also have something called CPT. Within your course, you can have internships, say for 6 months or 3 months. Now, this doesn't count to your OPT. But if you do your CPT for 1 year, then it is considered as 1 year of OPT during your studies. So they can do short semester internships. It can be paid or unpaid, just to get familiar with work environments, with employers who may then decide to take you on after your graduation. So it's a good way of doing things and knowing the industry while you are studying itself. It will help the student a lot while they are there. Canada, post-study, no problem, 3 years. Once you finish your degree or master's, you can stay back and work for 3 years. And within that time, I think your employer can work out your work visas. UK, they have come back with a 2-year visa. So after your studies, you can stay back for 2 years. Again, this is a recent one. So I had an experience previously where they had the post-study visa for 2 years and then they stopped. So for a short period, there was a gap. So a lot of students got caught in between. So these things can change, but then as of now, it's available. So UK, there's still 2 years. Europe, 1 to 5 years. 1 year, you can have traineeship. They call it traineeship. So you can actually work for 1 year. Some places you can go on. And once you're employed, they can actually work, extend your visa up to 5 years. So in Europe, many places, they allow you to stay on and work. Australia, again, 2 to 4 years, 2 years for regular students, and STEM students, you get 4 years. Again, these are also add on to if your intentions are migration, it adds on your migration points. So that's something that you can look out for. New Zealand is 1 year, unfortunately, but again, there are many ways of getting employed and then staying on. Ireland, is also same, 1 to 2 years. Science students get 2 years and the others get 1 year. So these are some of the countries that countries or regions that you can work. Most other places like China, Russia, and all that, you need work visas. So you need to find an employee while you're studying, employer, and then they have to do your work visa. So it goes under a different work permit. So it has to be applied by the um, what do you call
Yeah.
the employers.
Great. We have a question from one of the audience. They would like to know if the student is interested in Britain to study,
Yeah.
what's the outlook like considering the Brexit is impending, and will the requirements change? And especially if they want to work in UK, how will that impact their opportunities? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah. Frankly, Brexit has actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because previously it was getting difficult to get jobs in the UK because of the European Union uh, agreement. So they were taking a lot more Europeans compared to non-Europeans. So now with Brexit, UK has opened up. So there are more opportunities for students now to stay back. And that's why this 2-year thing has come in. Because the reason is they want talent, and they want English speaking talent. So they were not getting that, even for, say, for example, for nursing. They were not getting good English speaking nurses from Europe. But with Brexit, now they can actually get from anywhere in the world. So that has actually opened up. And that's kind of good now. Have I answered that question?
Yeah. So they can only be they will be tied down to only Britain or UK, or they can explore Europe also, considering Europe is now open.
Well, if they want to go to Europe, then it will be a different visa now, because it is no more because UK is not under EU, so it will be But I mean, UK degrees are recognized worldwide, so even if you want to work in Europe, uh, there are a lot of possibilities. But my suggestion would be, if you can get into a company within UK, they have lots of branches all over the world, and through that experience you will get easily transferred to many different locations. So that's one way of looking at it. But I mean, once you have a UK degree, your passport is pretty much open to everywhere in the world.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thank you, Gray. Any other questions from the audience? Please feel free. We will open the floor for the next 5 minutes, and after that we can wind up. Thank you for staying back late. Appreciate that.
I'm just running through some of seeing whether there is any questions.
So we have a question in the chat from Prabhakaran. Hope you can answer to that.
Yeah. Well, the minimum you need to study in Australia for at least 2 years to qualify for the points for the migration. So if you are an Australian graduate, you get extra 10 points added on to your migration. In Australia, it's a point system. So they look at your English language skill, they look at your experience, they look at your spouse, if you're going with your spouse, or they look at the points for your qualification. And then if it is an Australian qualification, you get extra points as well. And then they have the regional points as well. So it all adds up. So you need a minimum requirement, a minimum number of points to actually apply. So all that works in favor if you study for at least 2 years. So that's where sometimes, even like if you do a transfer program, you come to Malaysia, do 1 year and or 2 years, and then transfer for another 2 years in Australia, you can actually qualify. Right now, there is a bit of a problem because they are not allowing students to enter Australia. But a lot of the institutions are doing online. You can actually do it from home, wherever you are, and it is counted to your Australian qualification. So even if it is counted to the 2 years that you are studying in Australia. So you can actually start your Australian programs now, even from your home country, because it's going to be online. But only thing is, you can't go in yet because of the COVID reasons, right?
Okay.
So
So yeah, so great. We have another question, other two. In fact, Kushbu has asked this question a couple of times. Which universities offer sports scholarships in Australia? And there's another question from Parth Pathak. So maybe you can answer both if you don't mind.
yeah, I would say most universities, public universities in Australia, they have sports scholarships. So no issues. All of them. It's not only to Australia, to all overseas universities, they have sports quotas. So UK, Canada, US, all of them have that. But only thing is, when you say sports scholarships, you must have something substantially. Uh, uh, to prove that you must have a high standing in a particular sports. You must have achieved some sort of awards, right?
So they should have done well in their own countries in a
At least
particular
at the
sport,
state
and they should
level
be
or
excellent in that.
school level or something which of a very good standing. I mean, not just I used to play cricket and I won a scholarship. No, that's not possible. So it goes on a merit. So again, it depends on how many applicants are there for scholarship for under sports category. So that's important.
Okay.
Well, international level, that's very good, Kushbu. I mean, that's more than enough. He will definitely be recognized.
That's good. That's good. So there's two more questions. One is pending from Path. Do you think it's a good idea to go abroad for undergrad despite COVID lockdowns, especially UK or Netherlands?
Well, COVID is everywhere. So whether you're at home or whether you're overseas, COVID is not going to change. But what I would say is things are going to open up in time to come. So this year will not be, the coming year will not be much of a problem. The ones who went last year had a problem because they missed out on the university campus life. So a lot of it was it was not even hybrid. They were actually locked up in homes and doing their studies. Only occasionally they went to campus, so they lost out a little bit the last intake students. But it won't be the same for this intake because most countries have opened up, especially Europe. Most of the practicals are going on. People have started with social distancing. They have done rearranged their rooms, so they are all starting. UK also, the schools are opening up. So unless until something drastically changes or something new comes, I don't see it going to be a problem. It may be hybrid for a short while more, but definitely
Things are changing. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Absolutely, you're right. Great. I think we'll have one more question. How founder friendly is the visas process for Germany for both study and work visa? That's a question from Rishabh.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. You see, Germany has got something called a block account. So if anyone who has got an admission in any of the language schools or a lot of the students go to Germany to study language first, and that's what I normally recommend if you are doing in German language, because that's the one that's going to be free. If you are doing in English, some of the universities or most of the universities who are doing it in English will be fee paying. Only a very handful of them do it in undergraduate level. At master's level, yes, there are a number of them in English, but you may end up paying a slight fee. But if you're doing in German language, it's good to go to Germany, do at least a few months of German language before you get your test DAF exam done. And once you have an admission with the university, the processing is very straightforward. You need to open an account in a German bank. So you can do it at the German embassy, wherever the embassy is in your country. And you have to deposit 10,230 or something euros in that account. Now, from that account, the student can withdraw up to 850 euro every month. So this is actually to make sure the student will not get stuck halfway without funds. So their living expenses will definitely be covered because tuition fee is free. So it's only the language test and the initial block account that you need. Now, one of the things is if you can speak a little bit of German language, you can actually work part-time, and the part-time payments are pretty good. So students can actually make a substantial saving in their living expenses. So whatever money you put in this block account, if the student is not taken out, say for example, you're allowed up to 850 euros to take out, and you only took out 500, the balance will just remain, and the following year you just have to top up to that level, whatever the block account minimum you have to maintain, block account you have to maintain. So you just have to top up the balance. So
Makes sense.
it's
Makes
quite
sense.
good.
Well, makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. So there's another one from Jay Chandran. Is physics, chemistry, maths an essential in A level IB to apply for any type of engineering? I don't think he specified to any particular country, but maybe that's an open question.
Yeah, well, definitely maths, physics, chemistry is very important. Maths and physics is very important, at least for engineering. So it's good to have the science. Well, it's not just IB and A levels. Any foundation program, it must be science related because arts related students can't go into engineering. So maths is important, physics is important, but again, it may vary depending a little bit at the A levels or IB, but pretty much
Okay.
pure science.
Okay, good. So we'll have one more question. So there's a question from Santosh, which is, which are preferable universities in Malaysia for a twinning program for biotech and biomedical engineering?
Uh, Again, Malaysia, the options are very wide because if you look at American degree program, we have 200 over universities in US which you can go. So see, the American and Canadian programs, the first 2 years, you do a lot of general studies, social sciences, humanities, and liberal arts subjects, apart from your major. So your majors will normally will come in year 3 and year 4. So a lot of students have the option to actually even change their majors halfway through. So there are so many of them. So if you go on an American degree program, we have quite a number of American degree program offered in Malaysia. So a lot of universities have. But if you are looking at a public university, biotech and biomedical engineering, University Putra Malaysia is quite good. They are the local ones, which is good for biotech. USM may have, I'm not very sure. So I would recommend, if it is public university, University Putra, UPM is a good one. Uh, Otherwise, if you are looking at private, then we have lots of options because the training program, uh, we have private universities which tied up with many different universities, so you have a wider choice to choose from.
Okay. All right. So there's two more questions, but I think that's probably it for now. And once we've done with that, I think you can direct questions directly to Gray. His contact details, like his mobile number and email address, is listed there. So, as one question from Siddharth, which says, which countries are preferred for business studies? And there's another question after that, which is from Kushbu. Any universities in Europe which offer engineering and computer science in English? I think pretty straightforward question. So maybe after that we can wind up. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, business studies, it's offered everywhere. So it's not a problem. But the way we look at it is, where are the job possibilities? Because when you do business studies, you need to get that experience. So if again, what area of business is he going to go? That should be the criteria to decide which country offers that. So most of the time, what I tell students and parents is, look at which business line that he wants to go and which country will offer the best exposure for that course. So if he can do some internship, uh, that will be good. where there are a lot of companies where he can get the chances of them staying back for business studies is limited because it's not a skills based area, and to get work visas will be a little difficult. So for business students or any arts, any general degrees will be a little bit difficult. So nowadays, the chances for skilled migration is one that you go for a specific skill, whether it's arts or science, but something that is very skillful, that will give a better chance than business studies. I hope I have answered the question.
There's one more question from Kushbu, which says, any universities in Europe which offering engineering and computer science in English?
Oh yeah, almost all universities in Europe offers engineering and computer science. Now, it all comes back again whether the cost factors. You know, like Germany, lots of universities offers engineering and computer science. Netherlands, they have lots of them, and they are all good universities with good reputation. In Netherlands, a lot of it is in English, so only for local living you need a bit of Dutch language, which you pick up along the way. But 80% of the Dutch people speak English, so you don't have a problem. You can even look at countries like Estonia, where Skype came from. There are technical universities where you can go for computer science, and the cost is much cheaper. Right, so there are a wide variety of choices in Europe as well.
Sounds good.
Feel free to contact me or email me on a one-to-one, because sometimes we need to see how the prospective student is gearing up for, and what exactly the background and what's the financial situations, for us to give a specific answer to such questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Please take down the mobile contact details, the mobile number and the email address to reach Gray directly. Please feel free to shoot out the questions directly to him, engage with him. And thank you everyone for making time this evening, for joining us on this session hosted by WMC Malaysia province. And I thank Gracious for a wonderful session. It was very informative, very well curated this evening, and absolutely good information. And I think a lot of people have gained amazing amount of knowledge this evening, especially most of the parents that are looking for educating their children and in the coming now and the future as well. So thank you everyone, appreciate. Have a great evening, have the rest of the Sunday, blessed Sunday as well. And thank you everyone, take care, bye-bye.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye.
Bye everyone, take care, have a good evening.